hands are still shaking. The doctors say it's a combination of radiation exposure, exhaustion, and psychological trauma. My name is Captain Adrian Ford, and I need to tell you about the day we saved 8 billion people by sacrificing hundreds. They've given me something to help with the tremors, but it's not working. Nothing works when you close your eyes and see the faces of people who died because you ordered them into the fire. The detection came 18 days ago. Our Deep Space Observation Network picked up an anomaly in the outer belt, a massive object moving at velocities that defied natural explanation. Initial readings suggested it was an asteroid, roughly 400 kilometers in diameter. That alone would have been concerning. Objects that size don't typically achieve the speeds this one was traveling, but the real nightmare was its trajectory. It was heading directly toward the Kepler 442 system, 8 inhabited worlds, colonies that had been established over 3 generations, mining worlds, agricultural colonies, research stations, and one major population center on Kepler 442b, home to 6 billion people alone. 8 billion people total, living their lives, completely unaware that extinction was accelerating toward them at 0.03, the speed of light. The mathematics were brutal and unambiguous. Impact with any of those worlds would be an extinction-level event. The kinetic energy alone would vaporize the impact site, trigger global firestorms, and throw enough debris into the atmosphere to block out the sun for decades. Every living thing on that planet would die. Not quickly. That would be merciful. Slowly, as the ecosystem collapsed and the survivors fought over dwindling resources in perpetual darkness, and the asteroid would hit in 21 days. I was in my quarters on the Defiance when the alert came through. It was 0230 ship time. I'd been reviewing personnel reports, trying to decide which officers to promote, which crew members deserved commendations. Normal command duties for what I'd thought was a routine patrol. Then my comm chirped with the emergency override. Fleet Admiral West, no relation to my XO, appeared on the screen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Captain Ford, we have a situation. How quickly can the Defiance be ready for emergency deployment? 12 hours, Admiral. What's the situation? She told me. Show me the projections. The trajectory models, the impact simulations showed the entire world burning. We're assembling a task force, she said. 12 ships, best crews, most advanced weapons, and you're in command. Admiral, with respect, there are more senior officers. Who hasn't dealt with crisis scenarios like you have? You stopped the Titan Rebellion. You evacuated New Shanghai during the reactor meltdown. You make impossible decisions under pressure and you get results. That's what we need right now. She paused, and I saw something in her expression that terrified me more than the asteroid. Doubt. Captain, the projections say we have a 30% chance of stopping this thing. Those are not good odds, but they're the only odds we have. So I need you to take 12 ships, intercept this asteroid, and find a way to save 8 billion people. Can you do that? I should have said no. Should have told her that 30% wasn't enough, that we needed a better plan, more time, more resources. Instead, I said, yes, ma'am, we'll stop it. Because that's what you say when 8 billion lives are at stake, even when you don't believe it. Command assembled the task force in 48 hours. 12 ships pulled from active patrol, crews briefed and equipped, experimental weapons loaded. I was given command of the operation from the Defiance, a Resolute-class heavy cruiser with a crew of 800. The fleet composition was impressive on paper. 4 heavy cruisers, including the Defiance, 3 destroyers, 4 frigates, and 1 specialized science vessel, the Discovery, equipped with advanced sensors to analyze the asteroid. 4,700 crew total. I memorized that number. 4,700 people whose lives depended on my decisions. We launched within 60 hours of detection. The transit to intercept took 16 days at maximum burn, pushing our engines beyond recommended parameters, sacrificing fuel efficiency for speed because every hour mattered. Every hour the asteroid got closer to those populated worlds. Every hour was fewer options for deflection or destruction. I spent those 16 days reviewing the mission parameters, studying the asteroid, trying to understand what we were facing. The data was disturbing. The asteroid wasn't just large and fast. It was wrong. Spectrographic analysis showed a composition that didn't match any known celestial body. There were elements present that shouldn't exist in nature, exotic isotopes that suggested artificial enhancement. And beneath the rocky exterior, sensors detected an energy signature that fluctuated in patterns that seemed almost intentional, like something was inside it, something alive. "What do you think it is?" Commander Rebecca West asked during one of our planning sessions. She was my XO, a veteran of the Outer Rim conflicts, someone who'd seen enough combat to trust her instincts over her instruments. We were in the briefing room, just the two of us, going over the data for the 100th time, looking for something we'd missed, some weaknesses we could exploit. "I don't know," I admitted. "But natural asteroids don't move like this, and they definitely don't radiate exotic particles in organized patterns." "You think it's a weapon?" "I think it's something we don't understand. And in 4 days, we're going to try to destroy it with weapons we barely understand either." The plan was straightforward in theory, nightmarish in practice. We'd approach the asteroid in 3 waves. The first wave would deploy shaped nuclear charges to fracture its structure. The second wave would use experimental plasma warheads, prototypes that weaponized stellar fusion, to vaporize the fragments. Third wave would employ mass drivers to alter the trajectory of any remaining pieces away from the Kepler 442 system. Each wave carried escalating risk. Each wave required getting closer to the asteroid, deeper into whatever interference it was generating. And if all 3 waves failed, we had one final option: a manual delivery system. Someone would have to pilot a shuttle into the asteroid's core and detonate the largest plasma warhead we had directly in its heart. A suicide mission with near zero chance of survival. I volunteered before anyone could ask. That's what commanders do. We don't send our people to die while we watch from a safe distance. We lead from the front, even when the front is a death sentence. West objected, of course. "Sir, if you die, the fleet loses coordination. Someone else should. If it comes to that, you'll be in command. You're more than capable. That's not the point." "That's exactly the point. I won't ask anyone to do something I'm not willing to do myself. If it comes to manual delivery, I'm going. End of discussion." She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Understood, sir. But for the record, I think you're an idiot." "Noted, Commander. Now let's make sure it doesn't come to that." We reached the intercept point with 72 hours to spare. The asteroid appeared on our sensors first as a gravitational distortion, a massive object warping space around it. Then, as a visual contact that grew larger with every passing hour. It was massive. The sensor readings hadn't done it justice. 400 kilometers across, large enough to have its own significant gravity. The surface was ancient, pocked with craters that suggested billions of years of collisions. Dark rock that absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it look like a hole in space. But there were also structures. Geometric patterns are too precise to be natural, channels that looked engineered, and that energy signature pulsing from somewhere deep inside like a heartbeat. The crew felt it too. You could see it in their faces as they stared at the view screens. This wasn't just a rock. This was something else, something that defied easy categorization. "Sir, I'm getting interference on all sensor bands," Lieutenant Mark Oyo reported from the tactical station. He was young, 27, but brilliant with systems analysis. "The asteroid is emitting some kind of electromagnetic pulse. It's playing hell with our targeting systems." "Can you compensate?" "Working on it. But sir, this isn't random interference. These pulses are coordinated, patterned, like they're designed to disrupt electronic systems, which meant approaching the asteroid would get progressively more difficult. Our weapon systems, navigation, communications, everything would degrade the closer we got. We were being actively defended against. I pulled up the tactical display, studying the asteroid's profile. How close can we get before systems start failing completely? Best estimate, 20 kilometers before we lose critical systems, 10 kilometers before we lose life support redundancy, and the nuclear charges need to be placed within 5 kilometers for maximum effect. Yes, sir. So we're going to be flying half-blind into a defensive perimeter with systems failing around us. That's the situation, sir. I looked around the bridge. To the crew who'd volunteered for this mission, who'd left their families and their safe assignments to face down an extinction-level threat. They deserved to know what they were getting into. All ships, this is Captain Ford. Be advised the target is generating defensive interference. All crews should prepare for system degradation and possible combat conditions. This is not going to be a clean operation. We're going to take casualties, but 8 billion people are counting on us. So we're going to approach that asteroid, we're going to plant our charges, and we're going to stop this thing. No matter what it costs. Ford out. The next hour was spent in preparation. Weapons crews loading warheads, handling enough nuclear material to vaporize a small moon. Engineers reinforcing critical systems against electromagnetic interference, running redundancy checks, preparing for cascade failures. Medical teams preparing for casualties, setting up triage protocols, stockpiling supplies, and me sitting in my quarters writing letters I hoped would never be delivered. Dear Leon, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it back. I want you to know that I thought about you in those final moments, about the life we could have had if I'd chosen differently, about the promises I made and couldn't keep. I'm sorry I wasn't the husband you deserved. I'm sorry I chose duty over everything else. You were right about me. I was married to the uniform more than I was married to you. And by the time I realized what I was losing, it was too late. But I need you to understand. 8 billion people are alive because of what we're about to do. That has to mean something. That has to be worth the sacrifices we made. Take care of yourself. Be happy. Live the life I couldn't give you. Love always, Adrian. I never sent that letter. Leanne divorced me 3 years ago, tired of being second to my career, tired of the uncertainty and the long deployments and the constant fear that one day I wouldn't come home. She'd remarried last year, a civilian, an architect, someone who came home every night for dinner. But writing the letter helped, gave me clarity, reminded me why I was here, why I'd made the choices I'd made. Someone had to stand between innocent people and death. Someone had to carry the weight. And if that someone was me, if the cost was my life, then that was a trade I could make. The first wave launched at T-30 minutes. 6 ships, 2 cruisers, 3 destroyers, 1 frigate, deploying shaped nuclear charges. The plan was to approach from multiple vectors to maximize coverage, place the charges at structural weak points identified by our geology team, then detonate simultaneously. The theory was sound. The execution was where things got complicated. The ships approached in formation, moving slowly to manage the interference effects. I watched from the Defiance's bridge as they closed the distance. 25 kilometers, 20, 15. Lead ships are reporting system degradation, Oyo said. Navigation accuracy down to 70%. Targeting systems showing drift errors. Can they compensate? They're trying, but the interference is getting stronger the closer they get. The ships continued their approach. 10 kilometers, 8, 5. Charges are deploying now, Oyo reported. I'm tracking 16 warheads moving to designated positions. I watched the tactical display as the nuclear charges positioned themselves around the asteroid. magnetic clamps securing them to the surface. Each one was a precision instrument designed to fracture rock along specific fault lines. Together, they should crack the asteroid like an egg. Should. All charges in position, Oyo reported. Detonation sequence armed. Ships are falling back to safe distance, awaiting authorization. I took a breath. This was it. The first real test of whether we could stop this thing. Authorization confirmed. Detonate in 3, 2, 1, execute. The explosions were silent, of course. Space doesn't carry sound. But the visual was staggering. 16 points of nuclear fire blooming across the asteroid's surface simultaneously. Each one releases energy equivalent to the largest weapons in humanity's arsenal. The combined force should have been enough to shatter a mountain. The light was so intense that the view screens automatically dimmed to protect our eyes. I watched the tactical sensors instead, waiting for the structural analysis, waiting for confirmation that the asteroid was breaking apart. The nuclear fire washed across the surface, vaporizing rock and metal. Surface temperature spiked to millions of degrees. Material was being thrown off in all directions: debris, plasma, superheated gas. But when the light faded and the sensors cleared, the asteroid was still intact. Scarred, yes. Damaged, certainly. The surface was cratered and scorched, but the core structure remained solid, still whole, still on course, still accelerating toward 8 billion people. No significant structural damage, Oyo said, his voice tight with disbelief. The explosions barely penetrated the surface layer. Sir, what is this thing made of? I stared at the display. At the asteroid that should have broken, but didn't. At the energy signature that was somehow stronger now, as if it had absorbed the nuclear energy and converted it into something else. Something harder than we thought, I said. Something that doesn't react to conventional weapons the way it should. All ships prepare plasma warheads. We're going to hit it with everything we have. The plasma warheads were experimental technology, barely out of prototype stage. They used magnetic confinement to compress hydrogen to stellar core temperatures, creating artificial fusion reactions. Each warhead released energy equivalent to a small star. We had 6 of them. If these didn't work, we had nothing left except the manual delivery option, the suicide run. The second wave approached closer than the first, had to get within 5 kilometers to deploy the plasma warheads effectively. That meant flying through the asteroid's electromagnetic interference at maximum intensity. That meant pushing ships and crews beyond every safety margin. Ships started experiencing failures immediately. The destroyer Vanguard lost main power and had to fall back on auxiliary systems, enough to maintain life support and maneuvering, but nothing else. The frigate Steadfast reported navigation errors. Her computer thought she was 300 kilometers off her actual position, showing readings that made no sense. And then, the asteroid struck back. Energy beams, coherent particle streams that shouldn't exist in nature, lanced out from points on the asteroid's surface. They weren't random. They were targeted. Defensive weapons protecting the asteroid from our attack. Whatever this thing was, it was designed to kill. The cruiser Resolution took a direct hit. The beam punched through her forward shields like they weren't there, penetrated the hull, detonated something critical inside, probably a reactor or magazine. The explosion was catastrophic. One moment she was there, closing on the asteroid, crew following orders, trying to complete the mission. Next, she was an expanding sphere of plasma and debris, no warning, no time to evacuate, just instant death for everyone aboard. 600 crew, gone in an instant. Captain Morrison had commanded the Resolution. We'd served together on the Antares 7 years ago. She had 3 kids, all under 10, all living with their father on Mars while she did her tour. She'd shown me pictures during a duty rotation, 3 smiling faces that would grow up without their mother. "Evasive maneuvers," I shouted. "All ships scatter formation." That thing is armed and it will kill you. Deploy warheads and fall back immediately." The remaining ships broke formation, each captain making individual decisions about approach vectors and deployment timing. It was chaos, but organized chaos. Professional crews doing impossible things under impossible conditions. The Vanguard, running on auxiliary power, tried to maneuver but couldn't generate enough thrust. Another energy beam caught her amidships. The ship buckled, broke apart, spilled atmosphere and bodies into the void. 470 crew. Dead. The frigate Defiant got her warhead deployed, but took a glancing hit during her retreat. The beam carved through her engineering section. She lost main propulsion, began tumbling out of control. I watched her captain, Commander James Park, 3 weeks from retirement, already planning his fishing boat and quiet life, fight to stabilize his ship. The second beam hit dead center. The Defiant simply ceased to exist. One moment there, the next gone, vaporized so completely that there wasn't even debris. 380 crew, erased. The destroyer Harbinger made it closest and got her warhead within 3 kilometers of the target. But the interference was overwhelming. Her systems failed completely. She went dark, drifting on momentum alone, unable to maneuver or fight. The energy beams converged on her. 3 simultaneous hits. The Harbinger broke apart in slow motion, her hull fracturing along stress lines, sections tumbling away. Some of those sections still had crew inside. I could see the hull breaches, could imagine the sudden decompression, could picture crew members fighting desperately to seal sections and survive. But there were too many breaches, too much damage. The sections continued to break apart, smaller and smaller, until there was nothing left but debris and bodies. 450 crew. Dead. 3 more ships deployed their warheads successfully before falling back. The cruiser Valiant, the destroyer Tsunami, and the frigate Relentless, all taking damage, all losing crew to decompression and system failures, but completing their mission. "All warheads deployed," Oyo reported. His voice was hollow. He'd just watched 4 ships destroyed. 1,700 people died, and we hadn't even detonated yet. "Detonation sequence ready. Execute." The plasma warheads detonated in sequence, microseconds apart. Each one created a miniature star on the asteroid's surface. The temperature at the detonation points exceeded 10 million degrees Celsius. Rock vaporized instantly, metal sublimated. The asteroid's surface flowed like liquid under the thermal assault. The combined energy release was visible across the entire system, a flash so bright that observation stations on the Kepler worlds detected it. 8 billion people looking up at the sky, seeing a new star, not understanding that they were watching their potential extinction being fought. For a moment, I thought we'd done it. Though the combination of nuclear and plasma warheads had succeeded where individual attacks had failed. The asteroid's surface was molten, flowing, breaking apart. Then the sensors cleared, and the asteroid was still intact. Not undamaged. The surface was cratered and scorched, huge sections vaporized, but the core structure remained. The geometry of it was wrong somehow, like the interior was reinforced with something that shouldn't exist. And the energy signature from inside the asteroid wasn't just surviving, it was growing. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildup," Oyo said, his hands moving frantically across his console. "The asteroid it's absorbing the energy from our weapons, converting it into something else. The readings are, sir, they're off the charts." "Into what?" "I don't know, but if that releases suddenly..." The asteroid pulsed. A wave of electromagnetic energy radiated outward at near light speed, washing over our fleet like a tsunami. I had maybe half a second of warning before it hit. Time to register what was happening, but not enough time to do anything about it. Every ship went dark simultaneously. Power systems failed. Life support cut out, communication died, gravity disappeared as the generators stopped. We were dead in space, surrounded by vacuum, watching systems fail one by one as the pulse overwrote every electronic circuit in the fleet. The emergency lighting kicked in after what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 seconds. Battery-powered systems, independent of the main grid, providing minimal illumination. Around me, the bridge crew was recovering from the sudden zero-G. Lieutenant Davis had hit her head during the power loss. I could see blood floating in the air, droplets suspended in the absence of gravity. Oyo was checking his console, which was showing nothing but static. "Damage report," I ordered, trying to keep my voice calm while internally screaming at the nightmare unfolding around us. "Main power offline," West said, working through the checklist with mechanical efficiency despite the chaos. "Backup generators attempting to engage. Weapon systems are non-responsive. Navigation is down. Communications are down across the fleet. I'm getting no response from any ship." We were blind, crippled, and alone. And the asteroid was still on course, now glowing with energy it had stolen from our own weapons, growing stronger while we grew weaker. "Can we restore anything?" "Emergency backup generators are cycling up now. We should have minimal power in 60 seconds. But main systems, communications, weapons, propulsion, engineering estimates 6 hours minimum for communications, 12 for weapons, 18 for main engines." We didn't have 18 hours. We barely had 4 before the asteroid would be too close to the Kepler 442 system to deflect. And even if we stopped it, the energy it had absorbed might make it even more destructive on impact. I made a decision then, the only decision left. "Commander West, you have the bridge. Get communications back online. Coordinate with the other ships when you can. Get them operational." "Sir, where are you going?" "To finish this." Manually, I saw her understand. I saw her process what I was saying, saw the objection forming on her lips. "Sir, that's an order. The manual delivery shuttle is prepped in Bay 3. I'm taking a plasma warhead into that thing's core and detonating it from the inside. It's our only option left. Let me come with you. I need you here. The fleet needs you. Those 8 billion people need you to coordinate the evacuation if this doesn't work." I paused. "Besides, this is a one-person mission. The shuttle can't carry more than one person and the warhead." That was a lie. The shuttle could carry 3, but I wasn't taking anyone else on a suicide mission. I'd already lost 1,700 crew. I wouldn't add anyone else to that count by choice. West knew it was a lie, but she also knew I wasn't going to change my mind. "I'll have the shuttle ready in 10 minutes. Make it 5. And West, if I don't make it back, you tell those people in the Kepler system what it cost. You make sure they know what we sacrificed. Don't let them forget." "Yes, sir." I left the bridge, heading down to the shuttle bay through corridors lit only by emergency lighting. Crew members worked at their stations, trying to restore systems, not knowing that their captain was about to attempt something insane. Some of them I knew personally. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Warren in engineering, fighting to bring the reactors back online. Ensign Matt Webb, coordinating damage control teams. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kim was preparing triage protocols for casualties we couldn't even assess yet. Good people. Dedicated people. People who deserved better than to die in the dark while their commanding officer flew off on a suicide mission. But someone had to do it, and it was going to be me. In the shuttle bay, the engineers had already loaded the plasma warhead into the cargo hold of a small maneuvering craft. It was barely more than a cockpit, an engine, and enough fuel for a one-way trip. No armor, no weapons, no shields. Just me, a warhead the size of a small car, and whatever physics decided to do when I detonated stellar fusion inside an asteroid core. Chief Engineer Patricia Warren met me at the shuttle. She was 53, had been in the service longer than I'd been alive, and had no patience for sentiment or false hope. "The warhead is armed," she said without preamble. Detonation sequence is manual. You'll need to enter this code once you're in position. She handed me a data chip. The shuttle's autopilot is programmed to navigate through the interference. Theoretically, we've never tested it in conditions like this. You'll probably have to fly manual for most of the approach. She paused. Captain, the radiation levels inside that asteroid are going to be lethal. The energy field it's generating is putting out more rads than a reactor breach. Even with the shuttle's shielding, you'll be taking a fatal dose before you reach the core. How long do I have? Best estimate? 20 minutes before radiation sickness becomes incapacitating. 40 minutes before it's lethal. Your cells will start breaking down. The immune system will attack itself. Organ failure will follow. And how long does it take to reach the core? If everything goes perfectly, 15 minutes. If you have to navigate manually through interference and defensive systems, could be 25, 30 minutes. So I might be dead before I can deploy the warhead. Yes, sir. You might. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much war, too much death, too much sacrifice. Captain, there has to be another way. Someone else who can... There isn't. And even if there was, I wouldn't ask them to do this. Those people in the Kepler system don't know they're about to die. They're living their lives, making plans, loving their families. I can save them. That's enough. She nodded slowly. Good luck, Captain. I climbed into the shuttle. The cockpit was cramped, barely enough room for the pilot seat and controls. The view screen showed the asteroid ahead, glowing with stolen energy, still on its lethal trajectory. Behind me in the cargo hold, the plasma warhead sat in magnetic restraints, enough destructive power to vaporize a small moon, enough to crack the asteroid open from the inside if I could get it to the core, if. I strapped in, checked the systems. What few were still functional. Life support was good for 6 hours. Navigation was spotty but operational. Communications were down, which meant I'd be completely alone once I launched. No backup, no support, no rescue if something went wrong. Just me and the asteroid and 8 billion lives hanging in the balance. Control, this is Shuttle 79er requesting clearance for launch. The response came through text only. Communications weren't working well enough for voice. Clearance granted. Good luck, Captain. Make it count. The shuttle launched, and I was alone in the black. The approach was exactly as terrible as I'd feared. The interference from the asteroid scrambled my instruments within minutes. Autopilot failed within 5. Navigation became guesswork. I flew by visual reference, guiding the shuttle toward the massive glowing rock while radiation alarms screamed at me. I could feel it. The radiation. Not immediately. The shuttle's shielding protected me from the worst of it initially. But as I got closer, I could feel a warmth that wasn't warmth. A tingling in my extremities that was my nerves beginning to die. A metallic taste in my mouth that meant my body was already breaking down at the cellular level. I'd be vomiting soon once the acute radiation sickness hit. Then the real fun would start. Cellular breakdown, organ failure, my immune system attacking my own body. Death by radiation isn't clean. It's slow and agonizing, but I only needed 20 minutes, just 20 minutes to deliver the warhead. The asteroid's surface was scarred and pitted with craters from billions of years of impacts. But among the natural features, I could see the structures our sensors had detected. Channels that were too straight, too precise to be natural erosion. Geometric patterns that suggested design. And there, a large opening near the asteroid's equator. A tunnel that led deep into the interior. One of those impossible structures that shouldn't exist on a natural object. It looked almost like an entrance, like something was meant to go inside. I guided the shuttle toward it, fighting the controls as the interference grew worse. The navigation system was showing me 3 different positions simultaneously, none of them accurate. I was flying blind, trusting instinct and decades of experience. The tunnel entrance was massive, easily a kilometer across. I maneuvered into it carefully, watching for obstacles, prepared to abort if it narrowed or became impassable. It didn't. The tunnel continued deeper into the asteroid, spiraling downward in a gentle slope. The walls were smooth, too smooth to be natural erosion. They'd been carved, shaped by something with tools and purpose, and they glowed, faintly at first, but growing brighter as I descended. That same energy signature we'd been tracking, visible now as a pale luminescence in the rock itself. The tunnel descended for kilometers, spiraling deeper into the asteroid's heart. My instruments were useless now, all of them overwhelmed by the energy field. The radiation counters had maxed out 10 minutes ago. I was taking doses that should kill me in hours, but I didn't need hours, just a few more minutes. The nausea hit around the 15-minute mark. Sudden and overwhelming, my body's first response to the radiation damage. I managed to keep it together, swallowed the bile, and focused on flying. My hands were starting to shake, fine motor control degrading. Another symptom of radiation exposure, nerve damage, cellular breakdown in my extremities. How much longer did I have? 10 minutes? 5. And then I reached it, the core. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, easily 10 kilometers across, carved from the asteroid's interior. And in the center, floating in impossible defiance of gravity and physics, was a sphere of pure energy. It was beautiful and terrible, writhing plasma contained by magnetic fields that glowed with impossible colors, pulsing with that rhythm I'd been tracking for weeks, but louder now, more intense. It felt alive, conscious. This was the source, the power plant, the engine. Whatever this asteroid was, wherever it had come from, this was its heart. And I was going to stop it. I positioned the shuttle as close as I dared, about a kilometer from the energy sphere. The heat was incredible even at this distance, overwhelming the shuttle's cooling systems. Sweat poured down my face. My vision was starting to blur. How much time did I have left? Minutes? Seconds? It didn't matter. I just had to finish the mission. I activated the warhead's deployment system, heard the magnetic clamps release, watched through the rear camera as the device drifted away from the shuttle, propelled by tiny maneuvering jets toward the energy sphere. Then I pulled out the data chip Chief Warren had given me, the detonation code. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I had to try 3 times to insert it into the console, but finally it clicked home, and the detonation interface appeared on my screen. 60 seconds until detonation. I should have left then, should have fired my engines and tried to escape, even though I knew it was hopeless. The radiation had already killed me. I just hadn't finished dying yet. But I stayed, watched the countdown, watched the warhead drift into position, drawn by the energy sphere's gravity or magnetism, or whatever impossible physics kept it floating there. 45 seconds. My vision was getting worse, tunneling. The edges of my perception are going dark. My body was shutting down, prioritizing core functions, trying desperately to keep me alive just a little longer. I thought about West on the bridge, about the crew working to restore the fleet, about 8 billion people in the Kepler system who'd never know how close they'd come to extinction, who'd wake up tomorrow and go about their lives, never understanding what had been sacrificed for them. 30 seconds. I thought about Liane, about the life we could have had, about the daughter we'd talked about having before the divorce, before I chose duty over family, before I realized too late what I was giving up, about all the futures that could have been traded for this one moment. 15 seconds. I thought about the 1,700 crew who'd died already. Captain Morrison and her 3 kids, Commander Park and his fishing boat, all the people who'd given everything so this mission could succeed. I hoped it was enough. 5 seconds. Please let it be enough. The detonation was light and heat and force beyond anything I could describe. The warhead created a miniature star, right there in the asteroid's core. 10 million degrees of artificial fusion, all that energy released in an instant. The energy sphere absorbed it initially, growing brighter, more intense, swelling to fill half the chamber. Then it destabilized. The magnetic containment failed. The plasma, no longer controlled, expanded explosively, met the asteroid's internal structure traveling at supersonic speeds. Matter vaporized instantly. The shockwave propagated outward through the rock, fracturing it along every existing fault line and creating new ones, and the asteroid began to break apart. I don't remember much after that. The shockwave hit my shuttle like a hammer, threw me against my restraints hard enough to crack ribs. The view screen shattered. Hull breaches opened up across the shuttle as debris tore through the thin skin. Pain, blinding light, the sensation of being tossed like a toy in a hurricane. Systems failing one by one, oxygen venting, temperature dropping as vacuum found its way in. The cold of space is beginning to seep into my bones. Then nothing. I woke up in the hospital 4 days later. They told me the Defiance had picked up my shuttle's emergency beacon 3 hours after the detonation, that they'd found me in a debris field. The shattered remains of the asteroid spreading across thousands of kilometers. My shuttle had been torn apart, barely recognizable, tumbling end over end through space. They'd found me in the cockpit, my suit breached in a dozen places, my body cooked by radiation and explosive decompression. I was clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, gone. But West, stubborn, brilliant West, refused to accept it, ordered the medical team to try anyway, to use every experimental treatment, every desperate measure, every tool at their disposal. They'd spent 2 days fighting to bring me back, to restart my heart, to stabilize my body, to repair the radiation damage that was killing me at the cellular level. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. I survived. Technically. The doctors are optimistic in that forced way medical professionals have when they're lying to spare your feelings. Yes, Captain, you're recovering well. Yes, the treatments are working. Yes, you should make a full recovery. But I can see it in their eyes, the way they hesitate before answering questions, the way they check readings twice before telling me the numbers. The radiation damage was too severe. My cells are breaking down faster than they can be repaired. My immune system is compromised. My organs are failing, slowly, but inevitably. I have months, maybe, a year if I'm lucky, and the experimental treatments work better than anyone expects. But probably not even that. The asteroid didn't survive. The detonation fractured it into thousands of fragments, none large enough to pose an extinction threat. The largest pieces were deflected by the fleet once they got their systems back online. The smaller fragments burned up in atmospheric entry or missed the inhabited worlds entirely. 8 billion people lived because we stopped that asteroid. But the cost was staggering. 4 ships were destroyed outright, 3 more damaged beyond repair. 1,700 crew died in the initial engagement. Another 200 casualties from the electromagnetic pulse. People who died in accidents during the power failure, from decompression, from injuries that couldn't be treated without medical systems. 1,900 people died, families destroyed, futures erased, and me, alive but dying. Breathing borrowed time, living on minutes and hours that should have ended in that asteroid's core. Commander West visits me every day. She's been running the Defiance while I recover, doing a better job than I ever did. She doesn't say it, but I can tell she's angry at me. Angry that I took that shuttle. Angry that I made a decision that left her in command without preparation. Angry that I'm dying when I should be here, leading, taking responsibility. She's right to be angry. I should have let someone else volunteer. Should have chosen the option that kept me alive and able to command. Should have made the pragmatic decision instead of the heroic one. But I couldn't, because that's not what commanders do. We carry the weight. We make impossible choices. We sacrifice ourselves so others don't have to, even when the sacrifice feels empty, even when it just means dying slowly in a medical bay while your body fails one system at a time. The crew of the Resolution, The defiant, the vanguard, the harbinger, they're heroes. Their names are being engraved on memorials across every colony. Families are receiving medals and benefits and speeches about sacrifice and service. But they're still dead, and their families still mourn. And no amount of medals changes that. I think about them constantly, about Captain Morrison's 3 kids growing up without their mother, about Commander Park who never got his fishing boat, about the 1,700 people who died following my orders. Did they know it would work? Did they die believing their sacrifice mattered? Or did they die afraid, confused, wondering why this was happening to them? I'll never know. What I do know is that 8 billion people are alive today because of what we did. They're living their lives, completely unaware of how close they came to extinction. They'll never know our names, never understand what was sacrificed to save them, and that's fine. That's how it should be. Heroes shouldn't need recognition. The act should be enough. But God, it's hard, knowing that I'm dying because I made the right choice. That I'll never see Earth again, never have the family I always talked about having, never get to experience the things I sacrificed for duty. The doctors say I should rest. That recording this testimony is stressing my system, making the cellular breakdown worse. They're probably right, but I need to say this, need to document what happened. Need someone to understand that stopping the asteroid wasn't a triumph. It was a tragedy where we happened to win. We saved 8 billion people, we lost 1,900, and I lost whatever future I might have had. Was it worth it? Ask me when I'm dead, and maybe I'll have an answer. My name is Captain Adrian Ford. I commanded the task force that stopped the series Asteroid. We succeeded. We saved 8 billion lives, but the echoes of those we lost will follow us across the stars. In my dreams, I still see the Resolution exploding, still see the Defiant vaporized, still see the Harbinger breaking apart. I still feel the radiation burning through my body as I floated in the asteroid's core, waiting for the detonation. Still wonder if there was another way, a better way, a way that didn't require so much death. But there wasn't, and that's the hardest truth of command. Sometimes there are no good options, only terrible ones, and you choose the least terrible and live with the consequences, or in my case, die with them. The recording ends here, but 8 billion people in the Kepler system are alive. They're waking up this morning, drinking their coffee, hugging their families, going to work, living their lives. They don't know our names, don't know what we sacrificed. And that's fine, because we didn't do it for recognition. We did it because someone had to. We stopped the asteroid, whatever the cost.